A pleasure to have you with us here at NHL Tonight First Shift alongside longtime defenseman Steve Conroy. I'm Adnan Burke, and it's great to have you with us, kicking off your weekend in style here. Well, NHL Network Talk. I was with Billy Lindsay last week on First Shift, and he said to me, you don't really start to look at the season really truly until the 20-game mark. Well, right now, it's 14, 15 games in. You can start to make some interesting observations, Steve, about what's been in some ways a really unpredictable hockey season.
It has been. And, the 20-game mark typically is around American Thanksgiving. And then, the old adage, if you're in a playoff spot by then, you're probably going to make the playoffs. I just find this year so interesting because there's so many, we'll call it the mushy middle, so many teams that are right around 500, maybe a little over 500. They haven't quite separated themselves from the pack, but they're still in it. And some teams that aren't used to being in it. So I think it's great for the NHL. It's great for the league, and it's going to be a fun season to watch.
Noah Cates of the Surprising Flyers is going to join us today. Also, Peter Baugh, the Athletic, on the Rangers Red Wings. That game's coming up later tonight here on NHL Network. All right, first things first, this will make Ken Daneyko beam. The first team to 10 wins in the National Hockey League resides in Newark. That's right. Straight out of the Prudential Center, it's those New Jersey Devils who are rock and rolling. The first team to 10 wins so far this season. It doesn't matter if it's Jesper Bratt or Jack Hughes or Timo Meier. There's a collection of individuals right now powering this offense. They're getting strong goaltending. It doesn't matter if it's home or on the road. They'll get it done. They do so against the Montreal Canadiens team, Steve, which has been really good in their own right. But across the board, the numbers are great. Look at the goals against at home. Very stingy there at the Rock.
Yeah. Sheldon Keefe's got them playing the right way. And the usual suspects are leading the offense, whether it's Jack Hughes or Jesper Bratt, you mentioned. Dawson Mercer's having a real strong season. And, so far, Nico Hischier and Timo Meier haven't really contributed offensively that much. They're playing great, but they haven't really attributed offensively like they can. And then I look at Jacob Markstrom, their goaltender, and he's been okay, but he can be better too. So this team, I think they'll take it. Leading the division, that's a great spot to be in. I think they're capable of more, and I think you're going to see some more, too.
Yeah, goaltending-wise, you're right. Markstrom right now, .871 save percentage, hasn't been great. Jake Allen has been really good. .904 save percentage has been helped by clearly that blistering offense that's been so good. And it feels weird right now because you look at that division, the Metropolitan, a year ago it was all about the Capitals. They're off to a sluggish start. I don't think anyone was expecting New Jersey and Pittsburgh as the top two teams right now top that division.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? And especially Pittsburgh Penguins. I mean, you're talking about a team that's aging out. Their stars are getting a lot older, but boy, they're showing a second wind. And they've also injected some youthful enthusiasm into that team, too. And it's funny how that can kind of get other guys going. Parker Wotherspoon on the back end, he's been paired with Carlson the last few games. He's made a big difference back there, and they're a fun team to watch.
Yeah, more on the Penguins in just a second. But first, here's Jacob Dobich, a little hard on himself for the Montreal Canadiens. He's been great so far for Marty St. Louis' team, but clearly putting the blame on himself after this loss.
We played good enough to win. Just not good enough from my side. I don't know. Really hard. Yeah. I mean, just sucks. Last year not enough. Just it happened last year. It happened this year. Lose to those guys in OT, so just disappointed in myself. Just pretty much it.
That kind of emotion and self-flagellation from a guy who has a .920 save percentage. I mean, I couldn't imagine, Connie, if he was under 900, he's got a 2.25 goals against. I love the passion, the emotion, but I'm a little surprised he was this tough on himself.
Yeah, 6-0-1. I got to cover him a little bit. He played college hockey at Ohio State, and Steve Rolik loved him as a goaltender. There's a bit of a goaltending controversy, believe it or not, in Montreal. Yeah. Sam Montembeault, of course, he played in the Four Nations for Team Canada. He was on the roster for Team Canada. He is, legitimately their number one goalie, but his numbers have been horrible this year. Yeah. Well under 900 save percentage. I think he's 3-3-1 on the season. So Dobich, I think, has won the net, and surprised he's being as tough as he is on himself like that. But I think it's refreshing to see. Yeah. Get in front of the camera, own up to it, and it wasn't that bad a game, but he took it himself.
You're right about Montembeault's numbers being unsightly. .855 save percentage, despite the fact he's 3-3-1 and 3.67 goals against. So Jakob Dobich putting it on himself, but clearly Montreal Canadiens have off to a really good start so far. All right, we mentioned the Penguins off the top. Let's talk a little more about what happened last night. Penguins and Capitals, the 99th meeting overall. It's always fun when you see Sidney Crosby and Alexander Ovechkin meeting up once again. Ovechkin, a rather quiet performance, but Sidney Crosby fantastic. He bests Ovechkin yet again as number 87 is just off to a torrid start. I mean, this is incredible what he's doing at this advanced age. He's got 11 goals in 15 games, 19 points in 15 games, one back of Evgeny Malkin as he scores twice against the Capitals. They win this game, and it's always fun to see the head-to-head in terms of the team records. Ovechkin sub 500, Crosby above 500, more points. Ovechkin's got more goals. But other than that, it's all Sid in the head-to-head.
Yeah, and I'll give the Washington Capitals a bit of a pass for last night. The game before, Ovi had scored his 900th. It was the second of a back-to-back game. Sometimes, especially after a monumental goal like that, there's a little bit of a letdown, and I think that's what you saw from Washington. As far as those two guys go, let's wind the calendar back 20 years because those two guys, Ovechkin and Crosby, they saved the NHL.
Yeah.
They were coming off of a lockout. It was the dead puck era. There was clutching, there was holding. There wasn't a lot of skilled players, and all of a sudden these two young guys burst onto the scene, and they were must-watch TV. I mean, that was just, it was great to watch these superstars do what they're capable of doing. And to be doing it for, what, 20 plus years now is truly amazing, and it's unhuman what Sidney Crosby is doing right now. The two goals last night, the fact that he's leading his team in goals, it's just really, really remarkable.
You know, working for Amazon Prime, I was there back in Toronto for the Penguins and Leafs game on Monday, and our colleague and friend Jody Shelley was talking to Crosby. As you see right now, tied with Cutter Gauthier, the most goals in the NHL this season. And Jody was asking about his backhand and his blade. And he goes, you know, I don't mess with the blade very much. Nathan McKinnon does a lot. His good friend, of course, Nate from Nova Scotia as well. He goes, I don't. And the reason why is I find it might impact the forehand or the backhand. So Sid's always had a great backhand. He goes, I always focused on that. It was always a priority. If you have a great backhand, they'll respect the forehand. And he goes, I got the stick right up here. It's amazing to me. You know what it's like as a player. Yeah. You know, this is like the tools of ignorance, as they say, when it comes to catchers in baseball. Like, there's a certain way you like your equipment, but Sid is a guy who's had so much success, and he's not a tinkerer. He knows what he likes, and he's kept it very consistent.
It's funny, you talk about backhands because you don't see a lot of guys practicing their backhands. Sidney Crosby does. Patrick Kane does, too.
Right.
Patrick Kane scores a lot of goals on his backhand, and I think they do it because they realize goalies don't get a good read off a backhand. When they see it on your forehand, they see it coming off the curve, they kind of know where it's going. Off a backhand, and sometimes the curve's the other way, the puck can go anywhere. So it fools a lot of goaltenders, and I think that's why those pure goal scorers use that shot a lot.
Yeah, it's interesting how it's been successful. And overall, this Pittsburgh Penguins team, I mean, listen, they're having a lot of success. Dan Muse is a great story, as you said. They really have an injection of not only those veterans, Malkin, Crosby, Brian Russ, Erik Karlsson, but also getting some other players who are stepping up right now. And goaltending-wise, you have to have two goalies in today's game. They're getting that right now from Tristan Jarry and Artur Silovs. Remember him? He was the third-string goalie with the Canucks when they had that great playoff run. So both those guys, 9-11 save percentage for Jarry, 9-12 for Silovs. Good goaltending. They've been a pleasant surprise right now in the Metro.
They really have. And you mentioned Dan Muse, and I think he's worth mentioning. You know, he's earned his stripes. Long-time assistant coach. He coached in the minors. He coached at the U.S. NDTP, the National Training Development Program. He knows hockey. And the defensive structure, I think, it really jumps out at me. And they're a lot better in their own zone. And as a result, the goaltending numbers are a lot better. Tristan Jarry, some pretty impressive numbers after last year, maybe not quite as good. So mention Parker Wotherspoon. I'm going to mention him again. He's playing with Karlsson. He's done a good job on the back end. There's some couple other young guys in there making a difference in that lineup. And that shot in the arm for any team. You know, you get guys who are 35, 36, 37 years of age, and you bring in some 19 and 20-year-olds. Yeah. You know, it makes you feel a little younger, and I'm happy to see it for Pittsburgh because that's a very important market in the NHL.
Yeah, absolutely. They know how much they love hockey. And Ben Kindle, by the way, 18 years of age, he's got 5 goals. He's been fantastic. Scored twice in that Leafs game I was at Monday, so he has helped that team out as well. Another great story right now, unexpected. How about the Anaheim Ducks? They are rolling right now. Clearly, with Chris Kreider there, he's given them an injection when it comes to a veteran who can score, and their offense is a lot of fun. They're an exciting team. I mean, back-to-back 7-goal games. You kidding me? That's eye-opening right now in Orange County.
They're fun to watch. You know, I had an opportunity to talk with Joel Quenneville this morning. I was texting him, just congratulating him on the great start, and he said, we're fast. These guys want to be at the rink each and every day. And what he didn't mention was their size. And, you know, Chris Kreider, 6'3", 235 pounds. Leo Carlsson, 6'3", 210 pounds. Beckett Seneca, another youngster who I saw in person in Chicago not too long ago, an OHL alum. Nice. With the Oshawa Generals. He's the big guy at 6'2", 210 pounds. So you see the 7+ goals they've scored this year, 4 times already this year, and we're still, basically a month and a half into the season. Joel Quenneville ended up in a good spot, and that's exactly what he said in his text to me. He said, I ended up in a good landing spot. I think they got an unbelievable coach. And, of course, he and Pat Verbeek, the general manager there, have a little bit of a history from their days with the Hartford Whalers. They got a good one in Joel, and I'm glad it's all worked out for them. And that team right now, watch out for them. Not only are they great offensively, they gave up a few goals every now and then. He's going to have them playing playoff hockey by the time the calendar turns into January and February.
Cutter Gauthier, I mentioned off the top, 11 goals. He's been unbelievable. Obviously, did not want to play with the Flyers. They traded for Jamie Drysdale. It's worked out well for Anaheim. But how about Kreider? 9 games played, 9 goals. I mean, he's not going to be able to keep up this pace, but you need to have that veteran who now looks like he's been reignited after being with the Rangers.
Yeah, and rightly so. And I think, the last year and a half in New York really wasn't fair to him after everything he'd given, the only team he'd ever played for. It's a fresh start for him. And obviously, he likes the new coach. I'm sure he loves the youthful enthusiasm that team has right now. And I'm sure living in California ain't too bad either. You wake up and it's 75 degrees in December and January. That's a little easier to take than New York winters sometimes. So it's a new lease on life for him. And I'll say the same thing about Jacob Trouba, too, because Trouba's having a fantastic season. I want to say leading the team with a plus 13, plus minus. And those two guys are important for leadership because it's great to have a bunch of young guys, but it's important to have guys who have been there, done that, especially in the playoffs. And these guys are, proven playoff performers. So you see where the Ducks stand in the Pacific Division.
Yeah.
Who would have ever thought they'd be ahead of the Knights and the Oilers and the Kings and the Canucks at this point of the season?
I would have said Golden Knights division to lose, and instead, right now it's the Ducks, and you're bang on. Trouba plus 13, Troy Terry's a plus 11, Cutter Gauthier plus 10. So all those three guys have been plus players. By the way, Anaheim's power play is 11th. The Rangers second to last. There you see the impact of a guy like Chris Kreider. One more thought here from our friend Frank Saravalli. This is about the St. Louis Blues. We mentioned off the top some good stories. Well, this is a tough story right now. The Blues are not playing well. They are singing the Blues. They're 5-8-2 right now, 12 points in 15 games. They're dead last in the Central Division. And Frank tweeting, as he makes the scouting rounds, Blues GM Doug Armstrong has let teams know he's open for business. Keep eyes on Blues captain Braden Shen. His deal moved from full to 15-team no trade this summer. And again, you can watch the full clip with our friend Andy Petrillo on Coast to Coast. So what do you make of the Blues? This is a surprise here, Steve. You thought there'd be a team, at least a bubble team for a playoff spot. Hasn't gone well at all.
Well, remember they made the playoffs last year. They almost beat the Winnipeg Jets in that first round of the playoffs. I mean, they had them on the ropes. They really did. And everyone thought, myself included, that they'd be able to take that next step. And it just hasn't gone their way. And you mentioned Jordan Kyrou and healthy scratch. He's a 27-year-old kid who's making, I want to say that contract he signed was north of $60 million. Oof. Not very often you sit a guy who's making $60 million, but Jim Montgomery, the head coach there, is obviously sending a message. They did win their last game, and so maybe message received by the rest of the guys. That's the thing about a shot across the bow. It's not always the player that you're sitting.
Yeah.
It's for everyone else in the dressing room. So I think they heard that, but boy, there's been some real head scratchers this year. And obviously the New York Rangers comes to mind, but the St. Louis Blues, along with the Nashville Predators, right there. I just don't understand the slow start.
You were correct on Kyrou's numbers. 8 years, $65 million. For a guy who's a -8 right now. I mean, that's the second worst in the team. 8 points in 14 games. Braden Shen, the only one who's worse at a -13. So you're right. It's not just that shot across the bow to him, but everybody else. Like, hey, if we're willing to sit him, everybody's kind of put on full notice. So certainly Montgomery's getting the attention of his team.
Yeah. Doug Armstrong, the general manager, and he's got a full plate because he's also, I believe, involved with Team Canada for the Olympics. So he's got a lot going on right now. But that being said, he won't hit the panic button. There's just, too much talent on this team. And, of course, last year, the run they had, no one thought they would make the playoffs last year.
No way.
They made the playoffs. They gave the Winnipeg Jets a great run. Right now, they find themselves in last place in the Central Division.
The one upside, the year they won the Stanley Cup, as you know, they were dreadful much of the year.
That's right.
And then January 3rd, they flipped the switch. So hopefully they can do it before then. But St. Louis Blues have shown a propensity to come back and overcome adversity. Still to come here in NHL tonight, first shift. When we come back, one of the bright spots of the Philadelphia Flyers. He's top 5 right now on the team in scoring. And we'll tell you all about Noah's Ark, Noah Cates, and what he's bringing to the Flyers. That's coming up next. We continue right now in NHL tonight, first shift, and certainly when it comes to the Philadelphia Flyers, A lot of these players making an impact. Trevor Zegras has been well documented coming over from the Ducks. Connecting is one of their key players. But how about Noah Cates? He and Sean Couturier right now tied for third in the team in scoring, as Cates has been fantastic. And he joins us right now here on the program. Noah, it's great to see you. 4 goals, 6 assists, obviously off to a great start, 10 points in 14 games. To what do you attribute your success?
I think just kind of getting older in this league, learning from the past and, being younger and different things like that. So just getting to the nets and, being simple. And, luckily things have, been bouncing off me and just finding ways to help the team and find ways to score.
Well, that's your style of game. I like it, bouncing off me. I look at your record right now, and I'm talking about the team. Last year at this time, 5-8-1. This year, 8-5-1. You're in a playoff spot. What, in your mind, has been the biggest difference?
I think just being simple. We've been getting, good goaltending. We've been good in the D zone, getting out of our zone quickly, and then just in the offensive zone, getting pucks and traffic to the net. So nothing crazy, just, being simple, getting out of our zone quicker than, and then getting into our zone and, playing our style in the offensive zone. So just got to be simple and, defend hard as well.
And for yourself personally, you were playing with Bobby Brink and Tyson Forster, now playing with Travis Konecny and Grebenkin. What's that been like as far as shifting line mates?
Yeah, I think me, Tyson, and Bobby got together last year and found a ton of chemistry and some good success. Tyson, went down with a little bit of an injury. He'll be coming back soon, but we have such deep forward group. Our wingers are super special, so much skill. So you can kind of plug anyone in and play with them, and good things will happen. So just trying to create space for my wingers and be smart and good defensively so we can play in the offensive zone because we have so many high octane offensive guys on the wings.
A new guy behind the bench, a guy I played a good chunk of my career against, Rick Tocchet, another Scarborough guy.
Yes, Scarborough.
Yeah, Rick Tocchet. So he was tough as nails, but he was honest too. I want you to give us your impressions of him as the first-year coach in Philly. Yeah,
he's honest, like you said, a good hard coach, players coach, obviously. But you really respect him because he played really hard. So he's great. He shows guys on the ice and in video different situations and different things to work on and improve on. So you can't hide with him, but he is very clear and direct with his message and different things that he wants to see from you and the team. So it's been awesome, and we just got to keep it going and keep learning and building every day.
Yeah, you got to walk the walk and talk the talk when it comes to Rick Tocchet. You mentioned the goaltending's been improved. My kids love him, Noah, because it sounds like Darth Vader. But Dan Vladar, of course, has been a great presence. Watching that game against the Predators last night, that flurry in the second period made a bunch of big saves for you guys. How about Dan's contribution?
Awesome. Great addition to, not only the team, but the locker room. Just the positivity he brings, the energy. A little bit different coming from a goalie. Haven't really seen that, but, he's a leader and just the positivity that he brings every day. And, we might have, kind of a down period, but he keeps us in it and, keeps us going. So, all of our goalies have been huge for us, and, we just got to keep it going and help them out as well with good D zone and good PKs and stuff like that. So, the goalies have been huge for us, but we got to do our job in front of them as well.
Noah, Adnan mentioned your numbers, and I just kind of quickly tried to figure out how many goals you might end up with this year. Might be between 25 and 30, which would be a career high for you. You talked about the coach, Rick Tocchet, working on little things. Is there anything in particular that he's worked on with you?
They're just preaching, going to the nets and balancing the offense. So, if one guy's at the net, you can maybe get off the net like that. Well, Bobby's going to the net, so I'm trying to, be a little bit away from the nets, and, luckily it bounced right to me. So that's kind of with Yogi as well, our forward coach, just working on those things and, not duplicating in front of the net, kind of getting guys to the side. So just, different things to help me offensively, the team offensively, and, we just got to buy in and do our jobs. That's kind of the biggest thing, and you saw with that goal right.
When you said Yogi as well, I thought maybe the Yogi-ism, Yogi Berra. But you're talking about the forward coach, Yogi. Okay, that's different. The Metro Division right now, Noah, it's interesting. No one knows what to expect, right? Because Washington was the team to beat a year ago. Like Connie mentioned, it's been a complete turnaround there in Philadelphia. New Jersey and Pittsburgh right now on top. How confident do you feel that Philadelphia can compete in that division?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's still early with, the division and everyone's so tight. So, it feels like, at the end of the year with how close that race is, but got to go and keep plugging away, realize the importance of every game. And I know what this team can do. And, we're still building and learning and growing, but I don't think we've played our best hockey yet, which is which is an awesome thing with this group that we have. So we're super excited, but like I said, we got to keep going, realize how big all these games are and every point is.
Noah, you come from a hockey family. Your brother Jackson played in the NHL. He's currently in the Chicago Blackhawks organization down in Rockford. Can you tell us what it was like growing up with, I don't know if he's a younger brother or older brother, but you grew up in Minnesota. Just tell us about life growing up in that frigid state.
Yeah, it's the best. He's older than me, so he'd always play at the higher level, a year before me, and then I'd play with him, and we'd usually be on a line together, so he'd help me out a ton. So we played high school hockey together, we played college hockey together, we played in the NHL together. So it's been an awesome ride, and he's doing great down there in Rockford, and just so lucky to have him, because when I moved to center, moving to the NHL, all I think about is what would Jackson do in this situation, because he was my center for 90% of my career. So just different things like that. I owe him a ton, and yeah, he's doing well, and we train together in the summers and stuff like that. So we have an awesome time, just kind of learning and growing from each other and helping each other out.
Well, it's a long way from Stillwater, Minnesota to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, but right now, certainly enjoying success in your 5th season there. Noah, last question for you. What is the vibe like in Philadelphia? Such a great sports city. The Eagles are Super Bowl champions. They're 6-2. Big game against the Packers Monday night. The Phillies won 96 games, and we know the passion the fans have for the Flyers.
Yeah, best fans in the league. Just the sports in general, like you're saying, the Eagles fans are crazy. We go to Phillies postseason games kind of in September when we get into town. So the fans are awesome, and when we're going and we're playing well, it's great to play in front of them. So we just got to keep it going. Like I said, the city's buzzing with the Eagles and everything right now. So it's a ton of fun. We love it. The Sixers are going too right now, so it's great. It's an awesome city. We love it, and we love playing in front of our fans.
Yeah, just got to keep Joel Embiid healthy. Those Sixers fans will be happy. As you said, the fans are awesome. You are awesome as well. Yeah. Noah Cates, congrats on a terrific start. Keep it going for the Flyers, all right?
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Easy got to root for Noah Cates here on NHL Network. Still to come on NHL Tonight, first shift. We'll talk about Patrick Kane facing a familiar foe. Lots more coming up right after this. We continue here on NHL Tonight, first shift, to make sure you join us for some hockey tonight. Rangers and the Red Wings tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern, live right here on NHL Network, as the Red Wings could move into a first-place tie in terms of points atop the Eastern Conference with a win tonight. They sit 2 points behind the Devils, the Habs, and the Penguins. To talk further about the New York side of things, we bring in Peter Baugh, the Athletic, to talk about this Rangers team. So Patrick Kane here, Peter, he's missed the last 9 games, upper body injury. He is expected to play tonight after returning to practice on Thursday. What do you expect out of Citizen Kane?
Yeah, well, it'll be a test for the Rangers. He's always a dangerous player. He was going through power play work today at Red Wings morning skate, so I expect he'll be on Detroit's top unit, and it'll be interesting to see what he looks like. He obviously hasn't played in a bit, but this is someone who had history playing with the Rangers for half a season and one playoff run, and it'll be interesting to see how he looks. But the Red Wings have a lot of compelling offensive players. Lucas Raymond is an excellent player. Dylan Larkin is someone who Mike Sullivan raved about this morning. So there's plenty of guys to keep an eye out for on Detroit, and Patrick Kane is certainly one of them.
Peter, New York Rangers on the road actually haven't been too bad. At home, it's been pretty ugly. The underlying numbers look like they're actually getting their chances. They're just not scoring goals. What's the feeling on the team when they're at home?
It's a really interesting dynamic, because they're more than just not bad on the road. They're really, really good. They have one of the best records, if not the best record in the league on the road. At home, it's been a struggle. There have been a few games where they've both played poorly and gotten poor results, and then there have been a few games where they've played okay and have just gotten snake bit a little bit. So I think right now the big thing at home is the offensive play. They're defending at a really high level. Other teams aren't getting much against them, but they just are really struggling to put the puck in the net. They've been snake bit. They've been hitting the goalie in the chest a lot. They haven't been getting the puck up as much as they probably need to, but the underlying numbers are still really good. And the question is just, will that turn at some point? Todd McClellan, the Red Wings coach, said today that he expects it to. He expects this team to score a lot of goals at some point. He obviously is hoping it won't be tonight, but he thinks it's coming. And the Rangers probably need to keep that same mindset, because the underlying numbers, like you mentioned, are really good. But at a certain point, you have to actually put the puck in the net.
Yeah, at home it's been a disaster, but off Broadway they're fantastic, 6-1-1. So that's where the show must go on. Mike Sullivan, the head coach, certainly has a rich lineage of what he was able to do with the Pittsburgh Penguins. What do you make of what he's instilled so far in New York?
Well, this team is a much more defensively responsible team than it was last year. The numbers bear that out, and the eye test bears that out. This is a team that isn't giving up much at all on the defensive side of things. There have been lapses, of course, there always will be, but for the most part, they've been really good defensively. And when you have goaltenders like Igor Shesterkin and Jonathan Quick as the number two, that's a really good combination. So I think you see a more structured team this year under Sullivan, and he's been a impressive in all areas. The question is just, will this team at some point score enough? Because the coaching, I think, is there, the goaltending is there, and the defense has been there. It's just the offensive side of things that hasn't clicked.
Peter, is it rubbing salt in the wound, the fact that Chris Kreider and Jacob Trouba out in Anaheim now are really lighting it up? I mean, Kreider, I think Jacob Trouba has 3 or 4 goals himself as a defenseman. And I think he's a plus 13, which might lead that team. So does that hurt the fact that they're needing scoring and those guys who were with the New York Rangers not long ago have been cut loose?
Yeah, I'm sure that does to some degree. But I also think that if you look at the way both of those players' tenures in New York ended, it was tough to see it kind of getting put back together and them running it back again this year, considering how the start of last year went, how Chris Drury essentially told other GMs he was open to trading those 2 players. It was going to kind of be hard to put the genie back in the bottle. So I think you could definitely look at it as rubbing salt in the wounds, but they also were able to get a really good defenseman in Vladislav Gavrikov this summer. But yeah, certainly those 2 guys are off to really good starts. And Jacob Trouba hasn't always been an analytics darling, but his numbers are excellent below the surface. So he's been a really pleasant surprise for Anaheim. But I think it was some of the decisions that the Rangers made and wanted to continue making were going to make it tough to bring either of those guys back, and that's how it played out.
Vincent Trocheck, Peter, was on the ice this morning in a regular jersey for the Rangers optional skate. What's the latest there?
Yeah, so the regular jersey is definitely not a bad sign, but it's also hard to tell how much that means because it wasn't a full team skate. They weren't doing line rushes or anything like that. But it certainly seems he's been ramping it back up. He's been skating the whole week, and the Rangers couldn't really use him. Like we've talked about their lack of goal scoring, and this is a guy who's capable of putting the puck in the net, who's been to all-star games because of his offensive ability, and the Rangers are going to need that. So we'll see exactly what the timeline is, but Mike Sullivan's been clear that he's getting closer, and just watching him on the ice, he definitely has been. He's been out there more and more the last few days.
I want to ask about Artemi Panarin as well. He's mired in a 6-game point drought, his longest in the regular season. And Peter, he recently said that he shaved his head to try to get his mojo back. So a bit of a hair-raising adventure. The last time he buzzed his hair was the summer of 2023. He showed up for training camp with a bald head and went on to post 120 points. And he was asked about his pending UFA status and said, "I can't say I'm thinking about that in the game, but sometimes I think it could be a factor." Is it a factor?
Yeah, I mean, I believe he said that to my colleague Vincent Mercogliano at The Athletic, and if he says that it might be, I think there's reason to believe it could be, just given what his production has been this year. He has 7 points in 14 games, and 4 of those points came in 1 game. So in the other 13 games, he has 3 points. He's gotten looks. At times he's been hesitant with when he's shot, but he hasn't been the same player that he was last year, and certainly that he was 2 years ago, even if, again, like a lot of the Rangers, some of the underlying numbers are still good. It's certainly, if he says that something is weighing on him, I think there's reason to believe that is impacting his play, just given the drop-off. And some of it also could be that he's a little bit older. This is a guy who is now in his mid-30s. He's not as young as he once was, and we see that with players as they age. Sometimes your productivity dips. So he's definitely someone to monitor in the coming months for the Rangers, because if this team is going to have any chance, it needs offensive output from someone, and he is the most offensively gifted player on the roster.
Yeah, and you mentioned age. He is 34 years of age, so this does happen at this point. Last one for you, Alexis Lafreniere, yet to really get rolling. He's got 1 goal in 14 games so far. What are you seeing?
Yeah, he's someone similarly. I think when I was talking about guys who have hit the goalie in the chest, he's someone who comes to mind. He's getting himself in good scoring areas. not necessarily lifting the puck at points the way he needs to. And you see that on the stat sheet. The offensive output just hasn't really been there. And the Rangers need it, especially considering the fact that Artemi Panarin is in his mid-30s. Mika Zibanejad's 32, Vincent Trocheck's 32, JT Miller's 32. The Rangers need players like Alexis Lafreniere and Will Cooley, who are still in their 20s, to be taking steps offensively. And this year they haven't been able to do that in a way that's translated to goals. Maybe their underlyings look good, but in terms of actual production, it hasn't been there quite yet. So we'll see if the tide turns for them at some point, if some of the law of averages balance out and some of the pucks that Lafreniere is shooting into the goalie's chest go a little bit higher and he gets a weight off his shoulder and then goes on a heater. Things could look a lot different. It's still early, but definitely not the start to the season that I think anyone was hoping for from Alexis Lafreniere, but still plenty of time to rectify it.
And age not an issue with him. He's still very much a young man. Last thought, Peter, with a name like Peter Baugh, any relation to Slingin' Sammy Baugh?
No relation to Sammy Baugh, but I did ask my parents that when I was a kid, and the answer was no.
Well, you know what? I think you should lie. Just go ahead and say it was your
That's
grandfather.
right.
And we'll,
Great story.
exactly. Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. Peter Baugh, great stuff here in the Rangers. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, still to come here in NHL tonight, first shift. Steve and I will take a little walk in the sunshine. A look at Florida teams right now, the Bolts and the Panthers. Which team do we believe in more? We'll discuss that next.
We will get to see Crosby, Ovechkin head-to-head. Scoring barrage, fourth time Anaheim puts up a touchdown. Slick passing by the Ottawa Senators, Michael Amadio.
And they talked about this before the game. Dunn keeps throwing them. Down they go.
A rebound stop by Shelops on Milano.
What a save by Joe Hofer.
Third career shutout.
Here comes Brett Game on his stick.
Great goals, timely saves. Well, John Hancock, I love it. What's not to love from the night of the National Hockey League on Thursday? Now it's time for NHL Edge presented by SAP. Drew Doughty, even at his advanced age, the hardest shot last night, 96.5 miles an hour. Jansen Harkins was flying almost 24 miles an hour. And Charlie McAvoy, 4.39 miles, a total skating distance. Our director, Mike Dooley, walked the dog for a couple of miles. He's still winded after that. So I'm with you there, Dooley. It's good stuff all around. Let's talk further about this Bruins team. Speaking of Charlie McAvoy and company, I was at the Sens Bruins game a week and a half ago, and this is when they're in, struggling, talking to Marco Sturm, who's always, by the way, an upbeat guy, great presence, obviously first time coaching now as a head coach. And he said to me, one of the challenges right now, Steve, is this. He said, we don't have practice time. He said, the way the compressed schedule is with the Olympic break, he said, we've had one practice in 9 days.
Yeah.
So if a team is struggling, I don't have time to implement new things. Coaches love practice. Players generally do not. Look at Allen Iverson talking about practice. Yeah. So he said, we're almost using the morning skate to practice. You know this, that morning skate's normally, you get loose a little bit. You're not teaching a ton of stuff. So I think he knew it was a challenge. They gave up 7 goals, by the way, the Senators that night, but they've turned it around. Now won 5 straight games. He's got their attention. He told me he's doing a different system as far as the neutral zone. He goes, I'm teaching Pasternak a different way of hockey, different as far as puck management. But clearly, when it came to the previous 6 games, their defense was atrocious.
Yeah.
Now they've improved things.
Yeah, and you're right. Learning a new system is tough, and they have changed it. Neutral zones changed.
Yeah.
They're doing a little more of a man-to-man in their own zone, and that is really tough, difficult to learn on the fly. And that's basically what they're doing. Yeah, they had training camp, but during training camp, you got 40 guys on the ice, You got the 20 guys who are going to be on the team, and you got to teach systems. And defensively, they've been a lot better. Look, when I look at the Boston Bruins, whenever you have a Pasternak, and you've got on the back end a McAvoy or a Hampus Lindholm, or you got Jeremy Swayman, a former Vezina Trophy winner.
Yep.
You're going to be in a lot of hockey games, and they have been. And now, some of the younger guys, Zacha is all of a sudden starting to score some goals. I think this team is for real, and I think that Marco Sturm is the perfect coach for them. I knew Marco from his playing days. I was with the San Jose Sharks doing their TV when he was a member of the team there. Just a fantastic player. Great penalty killer, so the penalty killing is going to get better. And I think they're going to take to his personality because he is He's a player's coach. They're going to enjoy playing for him. These new systems might take up until Thanksgiving to learn, but once they learn them, it'll be ingrained in the way they play. Goaltending is going to benefit from it immensely, and these guys offensively will start catching fire. So I like this team. I like this team a lot. I think a lot of people, like you mentioned, wrote them off at the beginning of the year, but when you've got a McAvoy in the back end and a Swayman between the pipes, even Morgan Geekie up front.
Yeah, I was about to say, Geekie's been
Here's
great.
a guy, 35 to 40 goals, probably this year. So they're going to do some damage.
Yeah, you mentioned Zacha. He had the OT winner last night. And as far as Geekie's concerned, again, he can bring the offense right now for this team because that's one of the challenges. You say, they've really gone through a lot. Their core players no longer there, but Geekie, 10 goals in 16 games. Elias Lindholm also offering some support. Tanner Jeannot, obviously some tough stuff. So they have more balancing than people realize overall. So good news for Boston as they have won 5 straight games. In the meantime, let's talk a little Florida, shall we? When you look at the Tampa Bay Lightning, this was a big-time game. I mean, maybe it's not a Stanley Cup preview, maybe for some, but you lose you beat the Vegas Golden Knights 6-3. Kucherov was great. You win this game 6-3 is your final, twice scoring on the power play. Again, for Tampa, just focusing on this game specifically, Steve, I call it like a circle game on the calendar. If we can beat Vegas in their barn, this is good news.
Yeah, you're right. Both teams were rested. Both hadn't played the night before, and it was like a playoff game. And I give the Tampa Bay Lightning a lot of credit. They showed up with their A game. They got some pretty solid net minding from Vasilevsky, which they haven't always got from this year. And, their best players were their best players, and that's what you want to see. And they still have stars, whether it's Kucherov. I'll throw Brandon Hagel in there, too. Jake Gensel is just a fantastic player. Where I think they might need a little bit of support is on the back end. And, they traded Sergachev to Utah, and they haven't really replaced that young defenseman. And I'd like to see them get, and listen, don't get me wrong, McDonough's been fantastic, but he's not as fast as he was 5-6 years ago. I think they need a little more speed on the back end, and that'll help them keep the puck out of their end because they're going to be getting it out a lot easier. And the quicker you can transition defense to offense, the easier it is to play defense.
Yeah, it makes you wonder just how much more you have out of this core because, they've had, obviously, I wouldn't quite say a dynastic run, but they've been clearly an elite team for a long time. And Kucherov is still a point-a-game player, 14 and 12 games. Gensel, Hagel, you mentioned, as well as Chiarelli. Victor Hedman still a tower of power. And you still have Vasilevsky, and that for me is the key. I got a guy right now, 901 save percentage, 2.7 goals against, but he's proven to me he can be an elite goaltender. So even if the Lightning, to me, are not winning the division, come playoff time, that's a goalie that can still steal me a game, steal me a series, steal me a round. And that's why Tampa Bay can't be discounted.
Yeah, but the key is to make the playoffs because they don't care how many points they have. They just got to get into the show. And then once they're there, you're right. Those guys are proven playoff performers, especially Vasilevsky. Love his resume, and we'll see where it ends up for them.
All right, in the meantime, Florida Panthers, as you see right now, lockstep with them at 7-6-1. The Panthers, they had a nice victory as well as they beat the Los Angeles Kings. And the Kings have been a little wonky out of the gate so far. For Florida, it's been a really straightforward story, which has just been they don't have the health, right? They don't have the horses right now when it comes to their key players. Eventually, they should get them back, Matthew Tkachuk, etc. But for now, Marchand, a couple of goals. He's got 9 on the year. They win this game 5-2. Again, in a potentially hostile environment. Good win here for them.
Yeah, the Kings last year, they were golden at home. They had one of the best home records in the entire NHL. This year's been a little different for them. But, I totally agree with you, Adnan. For the Florida Panthers, right now what's hurting them, there's no Barkov, there's no Tkachuk. And I'll throw another name out there, too. Dmitry Kulikov's only played a couple of games.
Yeah.
An important defenseman and a real, all 3 of those guys big. And, one thing I really appreciate about the way the Florida Panthers play, they're big, they're heavy, but they make plays. And they make plays in tight areas. And, they win the boards, and they win the front of the net, and they win behind the net. And you do that with big guys. But you do it with big guys who have some talent. And these guys, all the guys I mentioned, great with their stick. They can score goals. Kulikov can make you pay the price in your own zone. They're missing those guys right now. The good news, and we've seen it from Florida before, those guys will be well rested by the time the playoffs roll around. And keep in mind, if they make it all the way to the finals, this would be their 3rd year in a row for the Stanley Cup Finals. So that takes a toll. But I like their chances of getting there more than the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah.
Just because of the makeup of the team right now. I just think that they've got a little more speed on the back end and a little more grit up front.
Tkachuk theoretically back in December. Originally for Barkov, they said he was going to be done for the season. You're looking at Steven Stamkos, and of course the great run they had with the Lightning. When it comes to Barkov, they're hoping maybe March or April. My question is this: how much time do you need to kind of hit your stride? That's assuming he can come back. But is it one of those situations where you go, even if he's ready March 15th, hey, don't worry, April 1st he's be back and good to go? Because I think maybe fans misunderestimate sometimes how hard it is to get back into game shape.
Well, especially for bigger guys. I remember Patrick Kane missed, I want to say 6 weeks prior to a long playoff run for the Blackhawks. He broke his clavicle, and so he was out for a bit. He came back. I think he had 2 goals in his first game back. Wow. So these guys are elite athletes, as is Barkov. Sometimes, though, for a bigger body, it might take a week or so for him to get used to the pace of the NHL.
Right.
But I think, you know, Joel Quenneville used to say it all the time, and a number of other coaches have said it, not just him. Rest is a weapon. And if you can rest key players prior to the big dance, that's just an advantage for your team.
And two of the best coaches in hockey, between John Cooper and Paul Maurice, you're going to have two teams which are just ready to go. Also, quote machines. They're always great for the media, so we appreciate them as well. Just a quick look right now at the Atlantic Division standings, because this is where it gets interesting. In the past, you'd say, okay, it's going to be a 3-horse race: Toronto, Tampa Bay, and Florida. Okay, Buffalo, unfortunately, still doormats, but I wonder about the sustainability of Montreal or Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, that's the million-dollar question. I think the Red Wings have upgraded their back end. I think they're solid between the pipes now. It's been the Achilles heel of the Red Wings the last 4 or 5 years has been goaltending. Yeah. And they're getting it now. The Bruins, I think they can keep it up. The Canadians, they made the playoffs last year. Why not? I don't think that'll be the correct finish.
Correct.
But those guys, they've all earned their stripes. They've all earned where they are right now. The one thing that I really like about the flip-flop you've seen is these teams that are now ahead of the Tampa Bays and the Florida Panthers. They've got young talent, and they're fun to watch. The Montreal Canadiens, if you haven't seen them play this year, they are not only fast, but very talented.
I mean, Demidov, the reason why they're calling him the demigod. It's a lot of fun right now watching him at the Bell Center. Still to come here at NHL Tonight, first shift. When we come back, we'll preview what should be a fantastic game on Sunday. Chicago Blackhawks and the Detroit Red Wings, as Stevie K will take a closer look at Connor Bedard, and now he's progressed after regressing a season ago. That's next. Some love to Frank, Nazar, and Finney. I love it. Blackhawks and the Red Wings. That game's coming up Sunday matinee, 1 o'clock Eastern, right here on NHL Network. Another showcase game for everyone to look forward to. And the Chicago Blackhawks team, again, Steve, you do work with the team. You follow them avidly. I think they're punching above their weight right now. 15 points in 14 games. They're middle of the pack right now here in the Central Division. What have you seen from the club?
Well, first off, they're fun to watch. You're right. And they might be punching above their weight division. They're getting great goaltending. Spencer Knight has been absolutely fantastic. And, you mentioned some of the young guys, whether it's Bedard, Nazar. They called up a kid, Oliver Moore. He's going to be real good. Ryan Green's been playing great on the back end. Names you might not have heard before. Wyatt Kaiser, Lev Shinov. These guys can move the puck, and they're really exciting to watch.
And as far as Connor Bedard is concerned right now, he's leading the team in scoring 18 points in 14 games. He's a +7, which wasn't the case a year ago. He's giving up so many goals. What are you seeing in a Bedard? Feels like maybe he's taken the next level.
Yeah, it's a maturation process. I think he's taken his compete level to another level. He's just really determined, motivated. And I just looked to last game. Now, this happened early in the game. That's a breakaway. That should be a penalty shot. That was Evander Kane with a hack on the hands. No call on the play. No penalty even. Didn't say a word about it. Literally 2 minutes later, he walks the whole team, gets hooked by Philip Hronek, right on the hands again. That should be a penalty. He kind of went palms up, But what he does is he goes back to the bench and he gets an explanation from the referee. And watch him. He's shaking his head. He's agreeing with him.
Yeah.
So, last year, I think he would have lost it. He took 3 or 4 10-minute misconducts last year.
Wow.
We actually lost it against the referees. He's dialed it back a bit. Later on in the game, they got a power play. He assisted on a Bertuzzi goal. Bertuzzi ended up with a hat trick in the game. He's growing as a player. But I just love the fact that, last year, you're right, it was a step back for him. Points per game were down. He worked on his skating. He worked on, getting to tough areas. He's doing all those things. And that's a big reason why the Blackhawks are a better team this year.
And the Red Wings right now, obviously a strong team as well. They're second right now in the Atlantic, only 2 points back of the Montreal Canadiens. Again, looking forward to that game on Sunday. This is something I'm not looking forward to, but forced to do it by producer Sanford Appel. A little cross promotion, Dodgers and the Kings. LA Dodgers win a thrilling World Series, one of the great ones ever. They win in 7 games. And Blake Snell and the boys checking out a Kings game, trying to give some love here. Really interesting stuff.
2 dogs that are going to be out there. Drew Doughty, Adrian Kempe.
All right. You said Kempe? Yeah. Anze Kopitar and Joel Armia. We got Mikey Anderson and Anton Forsberg.
I guess Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman's invites got lost in the mail, but good to see Evan Phillips, Ben Kasparis, Alex Calder with Blake Snell. Of course, Snellzilla, one of the best pitchers in the game. I'm happy for Sanford's son, Lucas Appel, joining us today, and also Tony Luffman, who's a noted Dodgers fan, but still a tough one for Canada and a tough one for the Blue Jays, Connie.
You know what? It was. And we're 2 Toronto guys, and we're obviously rooting for the home team. But what theater? I mean,
Yes.
Could you have scripted a better Game 7? That whole series was unbelievable. Fantastic job on the MLB Network, as you always do. That was really good. But, boy, that was must-see TV. And I am now a baseball fan. I used to watch baseball occasionally.
Yeah.
But now it's like, that was thrilling.
I just talked to my college roommate earlier. He's like, I never watched baseball with you on the couch because I didn't miss an inning. My parents are not baseball fans. They couldn't miss it. My cousins, you're right, having a generation of baseball fans who are going to love it. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa just couldn't score 1 out of, it's tough right now, Connie. I'm not going to lie to you.
I know.
But I'm glad we rubbed a little salt in the wound there. Congratulations once again to the LA Dodgers. This was fun. For Steve Conroy and Matt Namberg, once again, NHL Tonight First Shift always coming at you. Make sure you download the podcast and lots of great hockey coming up on the network, not only tonight, but also this weekend.